Listen up here. The restaurant industry is grueling and unpredictable, just like this show, from the front of the house to the back of the house and all in between. We will turn up the heat, you turn up the volume. I'm Chef Antonio Caruana. Welcome to the Tell All Podcast, the Burnt Hands Perspective.
This podcast contains explicit and potentially offensive material. You've been warned. Now buckle up, bitches. Let's go.
All right, KC, we're back.
What's up, boo?
We got guests.
Boom.
We got guests. So today we're going to talk about some bar stuff, man. We're going to talk about what's going on behind the bar, what's going on in the industry with the bar, the bullshit with the bar, all that shit that happens in a bar. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to start here with the ladies first. How's that sound?
Yes.
So, Miss Brit, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let's hear what you got.
My name is Brit. I am the bar manager at Luce Secondo right behind us. Been doing this for a little over 10 years now, so a little over a decade.
Where'd you start? What level did you start at? Did you start at, you worked your way up to fine dining, obviously, here you are. Where did you start?
First, actually, in this area, as a hostess, as far as
In the
like
restaurant
service
business in
industry,
general, yeah.
So you're multifaceted, at least.
Yeah,
In the front of the house.
pretty
You've been
much.
through it.
Yeah.
So then where was your level of starting at the bar? Were you slinging beers at a
I
juke
was.
joint with the tits
Free
out,
Jell-O
or were you?
shots.
Underage too, yes.
Perfect.
I was
Now, see,
not
this is where
of
the fuck we're
age.
talking. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
Love it. Perfect. So now we're going to get into where we are now, so we don't have to cover that. So underage, tits out, beer tub, the whole fucking show, right?
That sounds so bad.
Perfect.
Underage tits
Okay.
out.
Perfect.
I mean, Bob also had his tits out.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
let's
right,
get to
Bob.
Not okay.
Yeah.
Listen,
That one time.
tell me you tucked at least one time.
In or out?
Bob, go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy. What you got?
I'm going to pull this way.
Yep, go ahead.
Bob Gallagher. I've been doing this plus 25 years
Yep.
A minute.
that I can really remember it, I guess. Sure, 27 years.
Yep.
Started at high school in Old Country Buffet. That was my
Oh, God.
my intro.
Word.
Slinging pudding to the elderly on
Yeah,
Sunday mornings
butterscotch.
at 6:30.
Yep,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
And then from there, a little bit. Yeah. I escorted them back to the nursing home, and then a little bit through college, and then through here, started waiting tables with Kristen downtown. Opened Jack Quinn's down
Long time.
2000.
Yep.
Does that sound
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it was
2000.
I think it's
2000, yeah.
2000.
And then from there, worked Granby for 12 years. Stint with over in Portsmouth and Norfolk. I mean,
So
public house.
your range varies as well. You've been to, the reason why you guys are all guests on the show is because your diversity, you're very diverse in the bar culture. We could easily just have someone who works at a bar or a typical nightclub that just kind of pops beers open and makes shots and stuff like that. But we've all done that, and now here we are talking about this. So you have a multifaceted as well.
I think
here.
I've done like 7 to 9 restaurant openings in Norfolk
Yeah.
alone.
Perfect.
Yep.
Josh, what about you, my man? Hit us with what you got.
Yeah, I'm Josh Seberg. Been in the industry for 18 years, running bars for 10. Started running food at the oceanfront when I was like 15. And then waited tables there when I was 19, kind of caught on to the fact that bartenders made more money and got more chicks. So I paid Justin, shout out Justin, to teach me his rum runner spec, and then ended up paying him to let me do his job.
Oh, wow.
It's a good tip.
Yeah. And then, started bartending at a tequila bar down there right when I turned 21.
Wow.
Cool.
So we have to also preface that for people who are listening, we are based in Hampton Roads in Virginia. So all of us are kind of from this area because there are people who will be listening to this across the country
Yeah,
who
for
don't
sure.
know what Granby Street means or oceanfront. So Virginia Beach, Norfolk, this is the area that we all came up in.
Basically, what they're talking about is that's our hot spot as far as back in the 2000s, through the decades of the 2000s, even into now. The Granby Street district was like the bar place to be. Everything opened all at once. It was just a huge place to be. So that's where that reference comes from.
Yeah.
And yourself, Krista, you have a lot of bar experience. You've opened up many restaurants, many bars. You came into this hot, like a wrecking ball in the bar industry too, in the same district as them.
Yep,
Correct?
same thing. Because, Bob and I were in downtown together. But I think, I've opened 7 restaurants. I've been a part of 12. So that was over 15 years. And that really, I went into it as a cocktail waitress. And the only time I was allowed behind the bar, because at the oceanfront, our owner did not allow women to bartend.
Whoa.
Which is something that we can also talk about of eras, because that's changed a lot. did not let women behind the bar. But the guys realized that I made more money.
Hell yeah.
So whenever he was not there, I was allowed to go behind the bar when I turned 21. And I started actually working, down there at the oceanfront too. Just same thing, like sex on the beach, all the cheesy ass drinks that we did, all the shooters that are no longer applicable, I guess, in today's day and age. And I just kind of came up through that part of it, and then just started opening restaurants.
It makes plenty of sense because no matter what, me speaking for me, and everybody's got their own thing, but no matter how much I've ever drank, a dude has never got better looking. So it never really got me to want more. But now, on the other hand, don't feel offended. It's just not. It's okay.
Better, Bob.
But now that doesn't work for everybody, so that's cool. So in this instance, here we are. You know what I mean? But I'm going to give you a quick thing on me, and then we're going to get cracking on this. So my industry, my bar industry is this. I was young when I started going to bars, and I was drinking a lot at the bars. And then in my mid-20s, I'd still go to bars and drink a lot. And then by the time I got to 30, I started really getting interested in the bar more. So I started going to more bars. And then I started drinking more bars. And here I am now, almost 50, and I still really enjoy the bar. So I spent a lot of times in said bars. And I've had bartended before in a lot. I'm very familiar with the fucking beer and wines. And when I mean bartend, I mean I sit on this side of the bar and tend it while they make my drinks.
Yeah.
So it works really good. So yes, I have a lot of experience in bars
You're
too.
like UX of bar users.
Right, I'm
Yeah,
like
you're
Mr.
the
Miyagi.
experience,
You never see him do karate, but he knows what the fuck he's doing.
He knows what he's
That's
doing.
me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never see Mr. Miyagi, in the
But
competition.
you do have
but
your wine credentials.
I got my credentials.
Oh,
I got
yeah.
my
You know,
I got my
so you're
credentials
not-
for sure.
You're just not back there in a low cut shirt.
Correct. Yeah. Every time I do that, I get booed.
Maybe a
I
little
guess I got to
chest
change
hair,
genre.
Little chest
Little
hair.
chest
or
hair,
something.
little
Yes,
chain.
that's turning gray too. I'm like, ladies.
Silver fox
That's
era.
that's why I have to wear this now because the gold chain actually gets caught in my hair. So now I just wear this instead.
I was going to ask about that.
Hey, don't worry about that. Okay, so we got to stick to where we are, right? All right. So listen, let's talk about that. Let's talk about now. Let's get into this for fun here. We're gonna go back to let's say I don't know if you guys were around, Bob. Maybe you. I'm not sure, but I'm sure you guys have all seen this. There was a time back in the day, Kristen for sure. Rum Runners, Sex on the Beach, Blue Hippo, Blue Motorcycle. You call it. Call these little drinks. Tom Collins,
old
Bay
Jack and
Breeze,
Coke.
Madras. These were the drinks that we grew up with. Can you name a couple more of those old school drinks for fun?
Of
Se-
the
se-
cheesy ones or the
Sex with an alligator.
Yeah, buttery
Oh,
nipple.
Buttery nipple.
Slippery nipples,
B52.
zombies.
B52.
Yeah.
redheaded
Every-
slut,
Right.
pineapple.
Color of tea.
Yep.
Oh, redheaded slut.
Fuzzy navel. Redheaded slut.
Sweaty Mexicans.
Sweaty Mexicans.
Prairie
Bahama
fires.
Mama.
Prairie fires. Okay.
Remember the
Snake
last time
bite.
someone
Duck
said the
farts.
words Harvey Wallbanger? Like that.
Yes.
Hey, don't hate on
Yeah.
those.
Slow
Hell yeah.
stroke
Are
against the wall.
I
Don't
do.
listen.
I seriously
don't
do.
sleep on a Harvey Wallbanger, baby.
They are good.
I got one on the cocktail menu.
So what we're talking about now is this. So we had those drinks now. Now we're going from that to that's that old school way. Now in the 80s, 90s, that was huge. Going into the 2000s, it was even big. Now it's absolutely fucking different. You're almost embarrassed to make that. Somebody orders a Long Island iced tea right now. The eyes roll. Everybody's pissed. But these were staple drinks, man. These fucking drinks were killer. You drink a Long Island iced
Got a
tea, you're
frozen Long Island on.
Do you have a frozen Long
because
Island?
that's
Oh
money.
my
That's
gosh.
why. So I know this. You bring
I don't want to say I love it.
back in the day, you bring a chick out for Long Island iced teas. You drink 2 or 3 of them. Panty pudding. It's over with, baby.
At Fridays.
Show's
right?
over.
College
Fridays.
days. Yeah.
Huh?
Long Island's at Fridays.
Yes, show
Or-
was over. Date sealed.
Strong
You know what I
Island.
mean? Date was sealed. Strong Island. So now, how do you explain a fucking fat washed bourbon compared to that? How many of those? What happened here? So, do you guys see that influx? How many of the fucking old drinks are you even making anymore?
Well, I can tell you this for us, we pushed it. So at Pixels, it's the theme of 70s, 80s arcade bar. So the cocktails there are based on these 80s menus, on those 70s drinks. But we push a classic mojito, a classic Manhattan, a classic.
The classic essentials everybody should know.
Everybody should
We
know.
all should know.
Everybody should know.
Everybody should know the old fashioned
Yeah.
Manhattan, Sazerac. All that stuff is classic, traditional. If back in the day, if you didn't know how to make that right, you didn't even get behind the bar.
No, you're
Correct.
not allowed.
Especially for some of the places I worked.
Is that Josh? Is that still a test today that you would put somebody through? Can they make an old fashioned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so like at my bar, Neatbird, we do like we're about to hit 20,000 old fashions sold in like a little over a year.
Oh wow.
So that's like we're an old fashioned factory.
Right.
But like the first test, if someone's staging behind my bar, is always like fresh daiquiri. It's like 3 ingredients. You know, it's like the bartender's omelet. You know, there's a million right ways to make it and a billion wrong ones. But yeah, it's like if you don't understand like those little things of balance, then like you don't get behind the bar, like
Yeah.
you said.
I love that you actually test them with a daiquiri. 'Cause
That's huge. Brett, what about you? I mean, that's the same thing. We go through old fashions here, fucking hand over fist. So the Luce old fashion's a little infused. It's got a twist on it. We're infusing with the espresso. So what about you on these? In this type of level here, fine dining slash, I wouldn't call our restaurant as fine dining, but our bar is probably a little bit more, I would say, exquisite, educated. As
Yeah.
far as the drinkers, we have a different type of palate, elevated.
I don't know.
Elevated, yep.
It's actually kind of crazy. I mention this a lot that I don't know if like the whole old fashioned thing is a fad for a lot of people, because a majority of the time people will walk up to the bar and say, I'll take an old fashioned. And then that's it. That's the end of the sentence. And it's like, with what bourbon, what whiskey?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to follow up with that? But it's just, I'll just take an old fashioned. I don't know if people know what they're ordering sometimes, just because old fashions are cool. I don't know. Yeah.
And it came out of nowhere, because I remember there was a time no one even knew what an old fashioned was.
For sure.
Now it wasn't.
I think
Yeah.
Now, I mean, now it wasn't. Now it is. Now everyone's like, hey,
Well,
let
they
me
know
get an
it,
old
but-
fashioned.
Okay, so this is a good poll to take, because we were talking about this before about these drinks and the evolution of them. So do you think the way, because there are so many variations and so much of this like mix and chefing that's going into the cocktails now, do you think it's a bastardization of the cocktail, or do you think it's an evolution of the cocktail? Honest opinion.
Silence.
to change it.
I'm saying just in general as like a, you know, when you hear people order something completely crazy, do you just, I don't know. I just think those are two very polarizing words to put onto it, but you can vary them so much now. Do you think
Yeah.
it's too much, or do you think that it's just the way that the industry is going?
I think it depends on like the level of integrity.
Yeah.
You know, like I think if you're changing something to make something better, then like that's good.
Yeah.
If you're changing something to make something different, there's like a 50-50 chance that that's dumb, you know?
Yeah.
But like to your thing with people just ordering them, I think it's like everyone can sort of be expected to have some sort of interpolation of an old fashioned.
Right.
And it's like a pizza cocktail, you know, even when they're bad, they're still pretty good.
Sure.
So it's like a very safe bet. And then, you know, I'm sure that's like the first order here. And then they look at the menu and they're like, oh, cool. This is like a safe place to order off the menu and
But
get
bro,
something
I've had
delicious.
some on that. I've had some shitty old fashions, man.
Sure.
Like bad. Like how the fuck is this? They take a chunk of orange, a maraschino cherry, and they'll muddle that shit, and they
people are
give it
still
to me.
doing
It's,
that.
Sugar.
and it looks like a fog when it comes to me.
I
What is
think-
the cloudy fog, bro? What
I think
happened
that's from
here?
the 70s or 80s, because I
Yeah,
remember
well,
that
you know
being
what?
a
I'm
trend
done
in like
with
the
it.
movies and stuff in that era. And I remember like in the early 2000s bartending, I'm like, do you want a classic or do you want a bastardized 80s version? And like, I don't understand what that means. I'm like, well, do you want the maraschino cherry that wasn't around 100 years ago?
Do you want
muddled
to
in the
drink like
bottom?
Pierce Bronson, or do you want to look like Jack Tripper
And like,
at the Regal Beagle?
I would say I'll go to the Regal Beagle. Yeah. But to get to Josh's point, to add your own spin on it's one thing. It's like take a car, they remodel it, it looks great. Public hates it, they go back, they bring some old aspects back. A band covers a song, hey, it's a good song. But that band did a real shitty job of covering that song.
Right.
Like it's interpretation of itself. But the classic's always the best.
Classic's always the best. You got to see that bourbon. It's got to be clear. So when does it end, though? So let's get into this conversation. This is the problem I have as a chef, right? Italian chef. I do my thing. I'm stuck on traditions, but yet I'm also always moving forward into my own, into the future. I like to be dynamic with that stuff. I like to always be modern. I like to modernize the traditions. But when does it end as far as bartenders? Do you guys ever find yourself being in a fucking pickle? Because even I think you got out of the game just as this was starting to trend out,
Yeah,
right?
I was still on the like somewhat of the cusp of like where we were starting to bring in fresh herbs and things,
Right.
infusions
So
and things like that.
exactly. So now, when is it going to end? Are you guys getting a little bit like burnt out on this? Because I know as a chef, our ingredients can go over and over again. But how many times can you do things to a bourbon, right? So, Brit, for instance, I'll be in there cooking. My whole staff will be, the whole brigade will be in effect. Sauciers will be cooking, and all of a sudden, what is this pot here? What the fuck is this here, right here in the fucking way. It's my scrub, right? So, so talk about the shrubs. Talk about that because it's important because they are a key factor in a lot of your drinks you created. They fucking rock. They're good as shit. I would never imagine this 10 years ago, seeing somebody reduce down fruits and make a syrup out of them. This is a lot of fucking stuff, man. You're almost on chef level here.
Sure.
You're in my kitchen. You're cooking something that's got me enough interested to ask what it is, and it's good. I mean, so what do you think about this stuff? What the shrub stuff and all that? You know,
I got to give a shout out. Actually, I learn so much from other people, as well as kind of just like doing your own research. But the whole shrub thing, I definitely have to give a shout out to Megan, who used to work here.
Yep. She shrubbed it up.
Actually taught me so many things working back here, and shrubs were one of them. So she taught me how to make them. She is somebody who is like a no waste bartender. So she found ways to do like oleos, like the oleosacrums with, citrus peels, things like that. I mean, Patrick, one of our bartenders back here, he was like, what if we do like a Campari pearl, like a molecular gastronomy with a Campari pearl? It's like, I don't know. Sometimes it is a little much.
Well, the thing about that is it's like he'll come to me and be like, Chef, I have this idea. I'm like, fuck.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Because, making pearls is not easy, but I really love the fact that he's coming up with it and liking it. But making a Campari pearl is not as easy as you think, but we can do it, of course. Absolutely, we can do this. Yeah. It's not that hard. But then I start thinking, do you want the Campari inside to burst when you open? That's going to be a different type of, am I going to use agar on that, or am I going to use something else? What am I going to use to make this pearl? Is it going to be a solid pearl that's going to not dissolve in the drink and you're going to eat it like caviar? Or what do we got going? Now I'm thinking as a chef, how am I going to get involved with this fucking bar trick, right?
Yeah.
And then I find myself deep in the hole, in the weeds, worried about my braised lamb, and I don't have time to make the Campari pearl. However, Bob, talk to me. I mean, you guys can, that's awesome work on that shrub stuff. I mean, you guys do come up, but my question is, when is it going to, let's just start eating now. Because it's to the point now where you're cooking almost. It's almost to the point where we're liquefying amazing dinners, almost like Willy Wonka. You have the everlasting Godstopper with 6 different meals in it. That's kind of what drinks are now. Yeah. So you got fat wash stuff. Tell me about this. I mean, whoever wants to conquer that mic.
Well, like I was doing when I was at Still over like about a decade ago. And I worked with Megan over there, and it was one of those things where, personally, I'm burned out from that. I just want a neat whiskey and a cheap, shitty beer. And the time I'm putting into some of those drinks where I got to come up, find the correct wood to smoke the wood, to put the glass over, like, I just want my fucking drink.
You're my kind of customer.
I just want my fucking drink.
That's
at
like
home
the easiest
is one thing. I'll make those drinks at home. Don't ask me why. And then I'm like, I'm going to take this into work. And I get to work, I'm like,
no,
never mind.
I'm going to make this for you guys at the end of the shift. I sit down. You going to make that drink? Absolutely not.
No.
Just get me a shot of Reverend and a Miller High Life or a PBR and shifts over. Changing dealers.
Right. So Josh, take that mic. I'm going to see what do you think about that? Like, you know what I'm saying, right? It's
yeah.
I know you all do. I'm just trying to get a perspective from everybody.
Yeah.
Here.
So I mean, one of the most formative bar experiences for me was working at like Saint Germain, which was this very like Ferran Adria inspired, heavy molecular, liquid nitrogen, sonic homogenizers, centrifuges,
and that was
Tiffany.
But that was let me think. That was Granby Street, Norfolk, Virginia, right next to Luce, Norfolk, 245 Granby Street.
Indeed, it was.
God.
Is that where that was?
That was where that was. Yeah.
Okay, just do that plug. You see that plug? You see that plug? That was a good plug.
I give you credit, bro.
But yeah, so
Slide it
like
in there.
learning all these things there was cool. And so we would do things like, we were fat washing 21-year-old Scotch with like rendered foie gras, and doing things like that, which were like silly and opulent and over the top. And I think it just depends on what your client base is and where it is, right? Because is a foie gras drink with like porcini mushroom infused vermouth delicious? Absolutely. Do you want to drink 2 in a row? No way.
No.
So it's like
It's like an appetizer.
yeah, exactly.
It's food.
Now you're eating, absolutely.
So I'm thinking that, like, you got Michelin stars for food and chefs with gastro stuff. You have James Beard for that style of cooking. Every genre or style of cooking has its major reward, the fragile. So what about drinking? Is there going to be a Michelin star rating on cocktails at some point?
Yeah.
Because it's getting to the point where it's the same type of scientific or
It is.
technical. Technical. Take that mic, Bob.
I just mean it should be there. Like if it's attached to those restaurants that are going with that, and there's no difference now between what a bartender or a mixologist or wherever you want to categorize that is doing. And like you said, you're now making a cocktail based on either a dish or an experience. And it's hopefully, like anything I've made over the years, is something that takes you to a place. The names on our drinks at Pixels, Pints and Bites over in Norfolk is a storytelling experience. So like we have a drink called the Buzz Gagarin. All it is our version of a Harvey Wallbanger. And people are like, well, why is it a Buzz Gagarin? I don't get it. I'm like, well, simple. We use Stoli vodka. It's Russian. Yuri Gagarin, first cosmonaut. Buzz Aldrin, you get a buzz from it. Buzz was an astronaut. We have Tang in it because it's the drink of the
Astronaut shit,
astronauts.
yeah.
Of course you do.
And you have Galliano for the Wallbanger experience, and it's 7-Up because there's 7 astronauts on a space shuttle mission. But there's
That's a
story
lot of
to
thought
tell.
in there.
Yeah,
it's
that
fun.
is a
But
lot.
it's-
Who
it's a
came up with
Monday-
that? Dr. Seuss? I mean, who you got working with?
This is what I do at home at 4 a.m. Right.
Yeah, right
But
on.
Half buzzed with a bottle of bourbon. But it's one of those things on a Monday. yeah, I'm
Got a
sitting there,
chart.
Charlie Day. Yeah, but it's one of those things. It engages because a bartender's just not making something. Hopefully, you're engaging with a guest. You're connecting a bond. So, like on a Monday, Tuesday, when you have 3 guests in an hour, you share that story. But then another guest sits down with them. You make the drink. Now the 2 guests are talking.
Yeah.
Isn't that what a bar's for?
That's
Isn't
what
that-
it's
isn't that the
exactly what it's
social
for. Yeah, it's
aspect?
exactly what it's about.
You create the story, or you make something up. I don't give a shit. But
That
create
happens
a
more than
bond.
often, though.
Very much.
A lot of
Yeah.
making up shit at the bar. Remember that
most,
time?
Most of it comes by pure accident. But yeah, but like it's creating a moment, creating a story, or sharing something from the past that, man, like you're in Italy having strawberry daiquiris. 10 years from now, you're going to be having a strawberry daiquiri in the sunset alone, and you're going to remember your daughter.
Remember,
like
yeah,
that's
it
that's where
creates, yeah.
alcohol ties in, and I think they should have awards. I think there should be something that's like, hey, that person really understands the idea.
You're going to
You do that
remember.
with your food.
You're going to remember it the same way. Alcohol at a bar brings pleasure, pain, brings it all together. It's almost like music. You always remember a song for where you heard it during that time. You're in love with a girl. You break up 7 years from now. You listen to that song full blast while you're driving, looking in the mirror, crying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. The conversation can go on and on about that. You know what I mean? It's fucking great. The cocktails now, when it comes up to the pressures of making a cocktail list now, with what we're talking about, the reps come in, they're dropping off this. Bourbon companies are making, if you go to a bourbon, any ABC or liquor store anywhere, there are so many bourbons on the fucking wall. You don't even know what to do anymore. You get afraid to taste them because honestly, they're all starting to kind of run redundant a little bit. Let's not lie. Let's be honest. There's only so many ways you can still out, you know what I mean? And there's only so many things you can do. So how fucking far can you go with that? So when you're making a list, how do you, me as a chef, I come out of what goes through my head. I think about what I have. I think about what I've seen. I think about the fucking foods, and then I get hungry. Then I start making shit. Right? It's quite simple. Is that how it works for you guys?
I'm a little bit more kind of the opposite of Bob. I'm like a little more ADD about it. It's more so if something just feels right to me, the recipe, I just go with it. I have such a hard time, like even coming up with names for cocktails. I don't know. I feel like I can be such a creative person, but when it comes to like naming cocktails, I'm the worst at it. So
At least you can admit
Well,
it.
obviously-
Yeah.
The creative process is different for each person.
Obviously, we need to
is.
hire Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
Because
will
he had a
do that for
friggin'
me.
7-point system
that 10
on how to
That's
what I'm
fucking
saying.
yeah. What do you have, like a
He's a
checklist?
contractor now.
It's like a deductive tasting.
But
yeah.
let's be honest though, I at least have a theme that is very cheeky, and I have a lot
Yeah.
of as a
Yeah, you can
as a
play
big
off
Gen
of-
X person. I'm like
yeah.
child of the 70s, child of the 80s. It's easy. I'm trying to find that connection or that theme, but I
Yeah.
do go down a very deep rabbit hole with some of the names, like the zombie we call the George Romero. People are like, who the fuck is George Romero? I'm like, okay, first off,
Watch your mouth.
watch your
Watch your fucking
yeah.
tone.
Yeah, take George Romero's name out of your mouth. But I'm like, he directed Night of the Living Dead, and they're like, I don't get it. I'm like,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, here's your PBR and get the
Beat it. Yeah.
But it's one of those. But I also think, going back to the awards thing, like I get a lot of inspiration because I cook a lot. And people are like, how do you come up with drinks so quick? I'm like, you want to be a good bartender? Cook. make food at home.
I love cooking.
Experiment with
Yeah.
dishes, and you learn flavor profiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and
How about you? I'm sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, yeah, Josh, because you guys put really interesting combos together. So
Yeah.
how do you come up with your new drink list?
I think like cooking a lot for sure. I mean, we live in Southeast Virginia. Our produce game is insane. So like definitely focusing a lot on like local produce, and that helps avoid overcomplicating things too, right? Like if I've got these strawberries that are amazing, and I'm like, all right, cool, we're gonna do strawberries, lime, rum, a little absinthe for complexity. That's a 4-ingredient drink. It's done. You know, people want to drink more than one of them. I'm cool making 150 of them a night instead of like, you know, having to futz with my Campari pearls in the middle of service over and over and over. You know, like God bless Jose Andres, but I don't have salt air in my bars for you know, on purpose. But yeah, I think like keep maintaining simplicity, and then just like letting like 1 or 2 ingredients be the star of the show,
Stand out.
and then like create balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to making these drinks, here's how I work as a chef. Everybody who's worked underneath me or works with me or works for me or whatever you want to call it has understood this about me. I don't when I create my specials, which is always, I do not make them. I create them. I write them down. I actually give them to her. She types them out. Whoever's in that position at the time, and then we go from there. That's it. It's in my head. I'm in my helmet on my motorcycle, or I'm in the shower, or whatever it is I'm doing. I'm concocting ideas in my head, and it all comes to me. The last thing I've learned 10, maybe 15 years ago is to stop making my fucking specials and working with them. I create them, put them on paper, and that's it. I'm locked the fuck in. My idea has to work because I know it's going to work. I have faith in it. I trust it. And if it doesn't, I'll pull the special and act like we sold them all or something, and that's very rare. But I will make the special, create it like I did tonight. The whole list is made. All the ingredients are there. I got my lamb braising right now in Lambrusco, which is a risk. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I bet it's going to come out great. Okay?
think it'll
So
be okay.
what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to find out tonight when the first customer orders it is when I'm going to firstly cook it, put it together, plate it, and send it out and do this.
So you don't taste it.
No,
Until
that's the
it's
worst thing I can do
But
because
you
I
were
will never.
working on like impulse and like a little
Impulse.
bit more under
It's like
pressure
gut.
too. When
Well, it is that, but it's more of if I fucking sit there and pick it apart, my palate is going to treat me
Right.
like a whore, right? Like the dirty whore that it is. And it's going to sit there and just rip me apart. I'm never going to be happy enough with it. It's never going to be satisfactory enough for me.
yeah,
I got to twist this, twist that. Then I'll scrap the fucking thing because it's not coming out the way I think it should. But when I'm cooking it under pressure and let my skill and my knowledge and my palate do the work for me, is that how it is when it comes to making a drink? I mean, you have to,
Well-
you're going to play with your mind.
that's what
ADHD.
I'm saying.
I think there's
yes.
I think there's a couple important things about that though, right? Because like what you're underselling in this, but which I think is like how we all make drinks, is at the end of the day, you're coming up with these things in your mind, but you understand fundamentals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know
like
basic.
you have all of the building blocks so that it's gonna work out. You know, like and then to your point on tweaking, yeah, being able to just trust that like, yeah, this combination is gonna work. Like something I'd say to young bartenders all the time is like, you have to be careful not to take a great drink and add ingredients until it's good, you know? And like same with food, making these tweaks on tweaks on tweaks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like when you take the time to understand the basics, then yeah, we're able to act on impulse and put these things together, right?
No, I think it's been a lot of shifts in the industry. But
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is now most people are multifaceted behind the bar because you know how to cook. Most people understand ingredients, and you have a palate over time, so you can trust it. You know the basic scientific. I mean, it's all based on a structure. We know every drink is based on a structure. So as long as you understand the counts and you know the structure,
Sure.
and you don't get good at wine or food till you taste everything. So I mean, I was just a fool with just trying everything and seeing how we could make it better. So I think that's why we got to the point we were.
And that's where you are, right? Because it's the same thing with me. When I eat my dinner is on a tasting spoon. All night long, I'm tasting every sauce that goes over the pass, everything that goes over the expo. I live my dinner life off of a tasting spoon. And then once in a while, I'll sit down at the bar and have a real dinner, and I'm pretty much almost full by then, but I'm just eating now because it's principle. You know, there's no way I can just eat saffron brodo 17 times on a sip mode. I can't be like that, right? So let's kind of wind this down a little bit. Now let's get into the fun part of it all. Brit, you've been let's get crazy.
Brit's like-
Bob, Josh. What do you, Josh? Start with you. We'll go this way. What do you tell me? One thing that fucking irritates the shit out of you, and let me know. Let us know what irritates you the most as a bartender.
So
Give you
this
time to think about it.
has less to do with like the actual active bartending and more like a principle thing. Water with lemon makes me freaking insane.
That's
like,
it.
I do
As
not,
a bartender, fuck your water and lemon.
I mean, so like,
Like Val.
so you get water.
out to
That's
Val.
like a human right. Everyone should get a glass of water. You sit at my bar, you get a glass of water, and what? Now you get free citrus. It's like, do you think this shit grows on trees? You know what I
It
mean?
actually
Right.
It's
does.
like, besides the point.
I know.
That and well, someone said cherries too. Yeah, I think like also expecting cocktail cherries because like we all remember the like neon
Yes. I was gonna
maraschino
say that
franken cherries.
earlier. Yes. For the
Sure, and like
old-fashioned.
yeah, those cost like nothing. But like a Luxardo cherry, if you buy it from Total Wine, which like you shouldn't, you can get them in big cans, is 56 cents a cherry.
Yeah.
So
People don't
it's
know
like-
that. They don't realize it.
They don't, but like we all work on margins. Like a 56-cent ingredient on bar margin should cost you like $2.50.
Yeah.
But like if you're like, can I get a skewer of cherries? And I'm like, yeah, no problem, $12. Do you know what I mean? You're like,
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah,
Bob, what about you? What's one of your biggest pet peeves all the way around? Water with lemon, huge. What about you?
Only because there's 6 of us. I know the owner. Get the fuck out.
I know the owner.
Do you know who signs my fucking check?
I know the owner.
You're not
yeah,
gonna believe
see?
this. It's the owner. I know him too. And if you're coming for a free drink, and we aren't a chain, we aren't a corporation,
Yeah.
you're not helping your friend. You're not helping small business. You're being a mooch.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's it. I know the owner. Every time I'm here, I always get free stuff. Cool. Won't see you next month because we'll be closed.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks
True.
for not supporting us.
Yeah.
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 I'm
I
here
know the
busting
owner.
my hump 60 hours while you do your 40-hour work week. I take drunken ridicule from everybody, and you're pissed because I don't give you a free drink because you know the owner.
Yeah.
You're not helping me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about I call the owner right now? You know how many people know me?
I've known you. I've known you
Yeah.
for
Do
years.
you know how many people know me that don't know me for years but know me?
Can I tell you how many times I hear my name dropped at Pixels, and I don't know who the. And while I'm standing
Yeah.
there, when I worked at supper with Carl and Eric, someone's like, "I know the owners." I'm like, "Okay, which one?" And like, "Well,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, they're both standing behind you, so you tell me."
Yeah.
And then they turned around and were like, couldn't identify him, and I'm like,
The old owner. See, man, I know the owner. Yeah.
"Yeah."
See.
So that
Fuck that.
at the moment, that's my number one.
I love
Okay.
it. Britt?
I like it.
I guess to piggyback off of that, more of like an obvious one, it just drives me crazy when somebody tries to get your attention either by screaming, hey,
That's a good one.
waving, snapping. I've had it all done before. But I guess a little less obvious. It's a weird one, an oddball, but I get it a lot here. Everybody wants to drink any kind of spirit on a big ice cube.
Oh.
And
big
I
cubes.
have had people ask for a Tito's vodka on a big ice cube.
Oh God.
The block.
A block.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that takes time, skill, craft, and money to create.
Forever.
Yes.
That's not a free ice cube.
For
It's
what?
That's right.
free.
For
Takes
what?
Forever.
That's a charged ice cube.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know how much they charge for those at Wegmans? You can buy a bag of the speared ice. It's like $6 for
yeah.
a bag of like 10 or
We
12
get them
of
delivered.
Yeah.
I think they're
$1 a
how much?
piece.
$1 a piece.
They're a dollar a
crazy.
piece they
They're
cost
$1 a
us.
piece.
So that's what
Yeah.
people don't realize that.
ice.
Like it is costing that much money to put your
Vodka
fancy ass ice cube
on
in
a big
there.
block.
And
ice.
what about you, Kristen,
What?
when you were attending bar?
Oh God, I don't know. They're in a whole other ice cube conversation right now.
Yes.
The ice cube thing. I mean, we got ice water and ice cubes.
What about
The
a
two most-
water with lemon with a big ice
Oh,
cube?
yes. Cube.
Snapping.
That's a
Listen,
new
this is how
one.
it's gonna go.
So-
I'm gonna walk into your
Okay.
bar. I'm gonna snap my fingers.
Yes.
Look, Brett, I'm gonna snap my fingers. I'm gonna order a water and lemon from a large ice cube,
On a cube.
and I'm gonna say the owner said it was okay, Bob.
So that's actually a
the
Virgin
ultimate.
Vodka Rocks.
Yeah.
We'd love to
Okay.
make that for you. It's $18.
Right? Yeah, gotcha. What about you? What was your pet peeve?
Oh God, there were so many. I think all of them. Like all of those were my pet peeves because I went from obviously like really just trashy late night bars where nobody wore any clothes, you're covered in whipped cream, to like fine dining. So I mean, I've run the gamut when it comes to the restaurant
I
industry.
miss Havana's.
Havana's was good, and the Edge at the ocean front. So there was a lot of bad times. But yeah, the snapping or anybody that was disrespectful.
Yeah.
So I had several tricks behind the bar over time because I think as women, so Britt and I can attest to the part of it is easier for female bartenders to make money overall when you just, wear a low-cut shirt, things are easier. But I had a lot of tricks for people who either offered things or wanted to pay you for something or thought that I guess my biggest pet peeve was them assuming that I didn't have money or that I wasn't successful. So that's probably my biggest pet peeve because, this, we were together back in, 99, 2000. And at that point in my life, I was 22. I owned a home. I owned my truck outright. I owned my motorcycle outright. I had more money than I know what to do with. And I was very successful. And every horny-ass old dude that would sit at the bar who had his wife at a table somewhere in the restaurant would offer me a car, a house, a trip, something like that. Probably... I could have been really rich, I guess. If I had no morals, I could have been loaded.
From all of this.
I can take you away from all this, girl.
I know. It's,
Come on, girl.
That was probably my biggest
Come
pet
on,
peeve,
girl.
was people assuming,
What's
what your day job is.
Come on, girl.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Questioning your intelligence. Because it's like, obviously, I know what I'm
can
doing
take you from all
at this
this.
point in my life. And then it led me into television. So, I was a news anchor while I was bartending.
Right.
So it was like the most conflicting shit on the planet, but that was probably like bringing that out. That's a good question because
You ever been to the Maldives, baby?
Yeah, have you been there? I don't need your shitty ass little Jaguar. Like I got my own truck.
Yeah.
Like leave me the fuck alone.
I got a 2010 Jaguar for you.
No,
2010.
It's in the shop.
You ever seen a Corvette?
It's in the shop.
Yeah, I have a Corvette because they all.
It's in the shop.
It's,
So-
it's
It'll be all
bad,
right.
but that's
I wanted
probably
to
my
say,
biggest one.
I've also had the experience of it does come with like male patrons where they do not expect, at least now, women bartenders to have a lot of knowledge about what they're doing either. They don't think that, you have bourbon knowledge or how to make a proper cocktail. So I've actually asked, I think I did a poll years ago on if male patrons preferred to have a male bartender or a female bartender, and I was shocked at how many men said they'd rather have a male bartender.
Really?
Because they know what they're doing a little bit more.
What's the age on that? Old white men.
A little bit,
Yeah,
for sure. But I was a little
demographically, yeah.
surprised by it.
I know where it's going.
If they want to have a conversation about bourbon, wine, anything like that, a lot of them don't think that female bartenders know what they're talking about. So.
And I think that's why, like I said in the very beginning of this, I wasn't allowed to bartend because I was female at the first place I was at. So
Fuck that
it was-
place.
Yeah, I was like, that's
I ain't
crazy.
going there.
But like back to her
It
point,
sucks.
It is closed.
the old guy that's talking to her is probably like, I have a bottle of Pappy at home.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, God.
I have a lot of other bourbons I prefer over that.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Pappy. I just mean that's your knowledge. That's
Just
what
'cause
you're
it's
bringing me.
expensive.
Cool. I know A, B, C. I've been to these 5 distilleries. I know these 4 master distillers. Where do you want to go with this conversation?
Yep.
Put your Pappy back in your bag. Go back to your table with your wife.
Yeah. It's that.
Great
It's really,
conversation.
but that's,
Great
every
conversation.
industry has that, obviously,
Yeah.
because we all have experienced it. And I've experienced it through like 4 industries.
Yeah.
The restaurants were just the most blatant because they're like, oh, you're wearing a slutty outfit. I can talk to you however I want to.
Right.
So, yeah, that is a fun memory of probably what pissed me off the most.
Yeah.
Because that was really it.
So let's do this. While we wind this up, I'm going to ask our great assistant over here, Nikki, off scene, off camera, off set.
Hi,
Would you
Nikki.
mind pulling up a great bad review for Luce Secondo? Okay. And we're going to do this at the end of every episode. We do this. We go through it, and I just tear the shit out of these people if it's valid. Sometimes they have good actual reviews that aren't right. And we look into those, carpet rolled out, or they weren't allowed to bring in their balloons that we don't allow in here and shit. They all of a sudden now everything is misery. They hate everything. The world collapsed.
Yeah.
And like little chicken thing. What's the chicken little thing? The sky is falling.
Yeah, sky is falling.
Yeah, the sky is falling.
Yeah.
So we like to address some of these. I'll try and find some, and if they're legitimate, we'll conquer it. If they're not,
do you
hold
go by
on.
these online a lot? Do you guys?
I try to not to. The other
Yeah.
guys take care of that. And because here, I was going to get to that point exactly. Nobody realizes that in our industry, we can't have a bad day. Like, you forget to file that TPS report, oh well. But like, I have to have a customer service face every moment.
Yeah.
I don't overwork my staff. Like, I need money. I don't want you working the hours that I work because I wish somebody told me that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I just frustrates me that nobody understands that you have an off day at work.
Yeah.
My off day leads to performance of you blindly sending something on the internet without the experience of my shoes for the day. Somebody dies in our family, nobody's covering our shift. I have to go into work that day.
True.
My son gets a cold. I don't have any kids. But I got to find a sitter. Someone's not covering my shift.
Yeah.
I can't have an off day in our industry. And it's just one of those things that people, unless you work it, don't understand.
So you're there 24 hours a day if you really want. In our minds, you're there all the time. We don't get a break. Some days we're off. Some days it's just not jiving right. Some days the friggin' palate's not working. Some days we're just irritable because we can't step away from it. You know, if we have problems at home with the wife or with the husband or with the fiance, you can't just take a day off from work and go fix your marital problems. You just create them worse because you can't fucking leave. Now you're stuck here. Things happen. Life is life. Human beings are human beings. So understood, though, that these people are coming in here because a lot of them are looking for a great time. They may be having problems, and we understand all that. So,
right.
But then you have an asshole. And let's talk about that. This is ode to the
biggest
asshole.
or what,
Nikki, what'd you
can we
find?
do?
Anything? Yeah, come on over here with it.
Come on
Bring it right over.
here,
I'll
bring it
read the
over.
computer.
We should say biggest, yeah. We've all had the biggest asshole.
I
of our
remember the
entire
vegan one.
Smile,
career, so-
smile,
That
Nikki.
was a
Smile
good
for the
one.
camera.
Smile, Nikki.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
It's right here.
Top one. All right, we got it. Here we go. I'm going to read this, and then we're going to end this out. Check it out. Here we go. How Would You Feel is the name of this. This is Gene N. from Mount Oliver, Pittsburgh. Dog. Aren't you from Pittsburgh, bro?
Uh-oh.
Hey, when you go back home, talk to Gene for
Go
me.
back in 3 weeks.
Jean. Here we go. You walk in, the bar is full. Oh, this is good. I'm going to reread this. You walk in, the bar is full. I need lightning behind me. And that is where you like to sit for dinner. You show up alone and are waiting for a friend to arrive. You notice that there's a couple sitting at the bar with an open seat on the other side of them. You approach them and ask them if they would be kind enough to move down to open 2 seats next to each other. They carefully do. The bartender and later the manager tell me you have to leave because there are others that have been waiting to sit at the bar. So you just open up 2 seats that weren't available until you made the request, and they now take away from you. How would you feel? Okay, I tell you how the fuck I would feel.
Yeah, okay. Well, you did.
I would feel like pretty much an asshole because I remember this clearly. Britt, you remember this night?
I think so.
This was the lady that was bad. We had to kick her out. Michael had to kick her out. Remember that night? She was brutal. Remember her?
Yeah.
You were a bitch. You were a cunt.
Yeah.
The whole deal. So what happens is this. So here's the deal, Gene. This is what the fuck happens. I hope you're watching. Please let her watch. This is what happens. You walked into a very established restaurant. It was obviously busy. It was a Saturday night. I clearly remember it. I did reply to her. I did speak to her. However, it didn't matter. Fuck it. So she walks in, goes to sit at the bar. One open. We were waiting for the other one to open because we had 2 people sitting that had already come in well before her, and they were waiting in the lounge where we're sitting now, kind of in this area on the couch that you guys are sitting on, and facing that direction before. Of course, it's set up now, but they're waiting for their chair. She comes in. She was politely told, sorry, ma'am, 2 people are waiting for that thing. End of story. Boom. Gene went fucking crazy. Gene was so mad that we were lying to her. It was because she's from Pittsburgh, whatever excuses she probably could have fucking had. Gene, fuck off, okay? Because when you go back on there and you destroy the livelihoods or the rating systems of somebody and people who work so fucking hard, and the bartender had nothing to do with that, okay? The bartender didn't have nothing to do with that. That was a hostess decision with the managers that were going to wait. People were before you, Gene. Sorry.
Well,
You know
people
what I'm saying?
reserve the bar all the time.
Of course.
I like to eat at the bar. I reserve the bar. That's
So,
where they sit.
right.
So people don't understand that. Yes, that there are priorities, especially to regulars and people who come in all the time.
Exactly, and it's entitlement. So when people walk into a restaurant, they put in a thing, there were 4 empty tables and we couldn't get sat because the reservations are waiting for those people to show up.
Yeah.
And it may not be right now. They may be at 6:15. It's 6 o'clock. What are you going to do, sit down for fucking 14 minutes before they get here?
Yeah.
We have to, unfortunately for us, we have to lose a rotation for fucking 20 minutes on
don't
that
care.
table.
Right.
They don't care.
doesn't
Nobody gives
matter.
a shit.
No.
Doesn't
Gene,
matter.
peace out, Girl Scout.
I'll see you in 3 weeks.
Done with Bob, go up to talk
home
to
for
Gene.
the
You know what I mean?
30th
But
reunion.
you know,
There we go.
again,
buy
that's
it
one of
from
those that was a good pull, Nikki. By the way,
was a good
that's one of those good. That's one of those things we have to deal with as restaurateurs. That It's the perception of the customer and their lack of knowledge of what's happening at the moment that gives us 1 star, when if they would have made the reservation properly, I promise you it would have been a 5-star.
Yeah.
Because if you're that adamant about being pissed off, you would have been that adamant about how good it was too.
Yes.
And that's just the way it goes.
And to that point, if you're coming to a place that has a bar that gets reservations, that's a sign.
Yeah.
It is in
Well,
demand.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
have reserved signs all over the bar.
Because I'm with you. Like, I
Yeah.
like to eat at the bar.
Yeah.
But same thing. I've been here before, and I thought I got here early enough. It's like, no, but we can sit it over at the chef
Okay,
wall.
cool.
I'm, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Just
the
educating.
bar,
Educating.
right?
It's like I have a constant wait list in my head of
who's
okay,
coming
I
on
know
what
that
night.
person's next,
Right.
that
Yep.
person's next, and so on. But yeah, you get the attitude. You do. I mean, because it's like, I'm so sorry. We've already had people waiting, and it's like the world has ended. The audacity of you to say something like that, it's crazy.
So Brett,
sad.
where do you see yourself in the bar industry? Are you excited for the future of it? Are you getting nervous about it? Is it still look bright to you, or you still feel like you're part of the movement? I'm talking about the industry as a whole.
Right. I enjoy it because I mean it stimulates me as far as like the energy, the schedule. Believe it or not, I'm such a night owl, but I don't know where the future will take me. Maybe it would be nice to have a place of my own eventually.
Yeah,
That would
definitely.
be cool. Just a small, tiny little place. What?
He doesn't have a mic.
Careful for it.
Yeah.
I know. I go back and forth with it.
But no matter what, Bob, me owning 2 and pretty successful, I'm blessed with that. You're right. There's a double-edged sword. However, though, I'd rather have my own problems than fucking having to live for somebody else's. So,
Yeah,
so be
yeah.
careful what you wish for. Yeah, you are going to take on problems, but at least they're fucking yours. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
And you can stress out about you,
Yeah.
your outcome, and best of luck to you. And I really hope that works out. And I, without a doubt, I know if you did open up your own spot, it would be a spot to go to.
Yes.
So
I like the
and
challenge.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So, Bob, what
Yeah.
about you? Same question.
I don't know, because like the last 5 years have definitely been challenging, especially for the style that we run with everything hands-on. We managed to get through COVID. I mean, because it's an arcade bar. Everything's touchy-feely, and we weren't. Let's see, we shut down our 1-year anniversary. We shut down. That was really
Happy anniversary.
mentally, that was
Oh.
very tough for me.
Wow.
I remember for the month just sitting in a dark restaurant with the lights off.
Yeah.
Like
As we all did.
Everything I worked for is right here.
Yep.
Do I leave? Do I get out? Do I stay in? What do I do? And by the time we reopened, it was like 4th of July, I think, was patio season. Weren't allowed inside. September was inside, but we couldn't open the arcade area, which we sell burgers and wings. You can go anywhere for that. The niche was the games. So I won't say it was soul crushing, but where do I see myself moving forward? Where I see the industry? I saw a lot of changes in the last 5 years, which has to restructure the game plan. How expanding moving forward? Like what avenues, what aspects do you want to take that worked 10 years ago that are completely gone now versus what is going to be new? Because so many habits from people changed overnight.
The good news about that, Bob, is that with all the shit that came from COVID, it also helped us a lot in the industry because it also released and relieved a lot of the pressures that were unnecessary because we all had to get through. And the state realized and the taxation realized that it wasn't working either. So how we all as a whole going to get out? So they relaxed a lot of the bullshit rules or traditional craps that were holding us back. So I will give it that. I will give COVID that. We do have a lot more leniency now when it comes to ABC law and rule and liquor law and
I just
enforcement.
want that one law gone.
Which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 60-40, yeah.
Food ratio. And I don't think most people outside the state of Virginia understand, or because I even worked in Outer Banks in Carolina where they had the same rules, where if you have a liquor license, beer and wine doesn't matter, liquor license, food to ratio has to be a sale. And it's an outdated law.
It
like,
is.
like mom and pops, they can't make it now.
It's antiquated.
For the price of food.
Right.
And liquor
Right.
hasn't gone up.
If your main goal is selling hot dogs and burgers, how are you going to compare that to your liquor that costs so much more now?
Yeah.
Josh, what about yourself, man?
I'm very happily kind of transitioning into more education and traveling. So I do a lot of like trade advocacy these days, teaching like kind of sciencey cocktail things at conferences and stuff like that. And I'm starting a little at home, like ready to mix, cocktail situation. So like
cool.
in the space between commercial sour mix and having to do all this shit yourself. So that's what I'm excited about. But I don't ever see myself being out of bars in some capacity or another, whether it's like curating whiskey programs.
Booze is
or
life.
Teaching bartenders. Yeah. It's like,
Booze is
unfortunately,
life, huh?
I like
I didn't choose the sauce. The sauce chose me.
Hey.
I like it.
All right, great.
I
Well,
love
listen,
it.
usually we open up with a toast, but let's end this
I
one with a
drank all
toast.
mine, so it's okay.
You already drank yours. I didn't even hit mine yet. That's
Cheers.
fucking foul.
Cheers.
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 Big stretch.
I'm
Boom.
just gonna
Clack.
pretend.
Cheers.
All right, guys. Thanks again for coming. Thanks for coming on board and spending your time doing this. I know it was last minute for some of you, but it was awesome, man. Thank you for the talk, conversation. Keep doing what you're doing in the industry. Anybody reach out if anybody wants to follow. We'll have all the links attached,
In the show
right?
notes.
Is
Yeah,
that the
we'll
word I'm
have
looking
all the
for,
links
Kristen?
To follow everybody.
Yeah.
Their restaurants, all the things that you can.
Who they
support
are as
everyone on
people,
this
who they are
show.
as bartenders,
Yes.
and all that stuff. So again, thanks for coming in. That's the end of it. Burnt Hands Perspective through the bar eyes. Ciao for now.